happening, guys? Well, thank you guys for coming to the channel. And today we're going to go ahead and start with the stories. I'm going to give you the background story of what happened to me, real briefly, and just cover the basics on this thing, and then I'll make further videos covering, each of the details that went along the way. But in a moment, go and hit that like button. Go ahead and subscribe, and feel free to leave any comments. Share it as necessary. So let's go ahead and run this introduction here, and I'll catch you over here on the backside.
I don't even know my competitors' names. I don't even know they exist. Give a fuck. Spend 0 seconds on it. Cheering for them, let them do their thing, has nothing to do with me. The world is abundant. Nobody on earth is taking your money or your happiness. Your perception that they are is taking your money and your fucking happiness.
See how mad she is? Hold on, we're gonna get this. Ow! Wait a minute, I got this. Oh, wait, you only got 2 spots left. Shit.
In May of 2012, I met the person who would eventually become my second wife. We started dating and then eventually moved in together right around May of 2013. At that time, she had 3 other children from previous marriages, and I had what is now my 24-year-old son from my first marriage. And we were both coming out of, horrible marriages, or what we thought were horrible marriages at that time. We became very close very quick, and somehow through trials and tribulations and going through everything that we did in our failed relationships, we became very, very close, and I thought it was amazing. Friends that I have would often describe our relationship as us being the fairy tale couple, and I took a lot of pride in that. It took a lot of work and a lot of sacrifice, and along the way, very early on in the relationship, we lost everything. I've told people before, lost 4 houses and 2 cars, and basically most of our liquid assets in just under 3 years. And it was grueling, and it was tough, and it was very, very hard. And when it was all said and done, as my son was graduating high school and getting ready to go off to college, we were packing a U-Haul truck, throwing the last of the things that we had in it, and threw the last car that we had onto a trailer behind it, and we rolled south. We stayed with our grandmother for a couple months, and as we tried to figure things out, and ultimately I ended up going to the trucking industry. I knew very little about it. I grew up with a couple cousins that were involved in it, and always thought it'd be the coolest thing to drive a big rig. To me, at that time, my goal was to eventually own a Peterbilt 379. That was my dream truck at the time. You guys see now I run a Peterbilt 389, fairly similar truck, except it's got that horrible DEF system in it. But it's nice, it's what I wanted, and that was the goal. In the previous video, I went ahead and covered sort of the storyline and the timeline behind my trucking career. It hasn't been long, less than 6 years. And at that time, I had made a promise to her and my family, because at that point, we then had what is now my 6-year-old son. So he was a little baby. And I just made a promise to everybody and said, look, we'll never go through this again. I'm going to figure out what I need to do to make it happen, where we're financially solvent and be able to live a life that we've never been able to live before. We're never going to have to go through this thing of struggling and, trying to figure out how we're going to pay the next bill. And I'm certainly never going to make the mistake of, getting involved in the horrible investments that I did. So I went out and I started trucking. I learned how to drive a truck. And while I was gone, it was hard to be away from her, and she found it hard to be away from me, but there was the understanding that, look, there is a goal here, and somehow I'm going to find a way to achieve this. So I trucked and I trucked and I trucked, and I learned how to drive, then went to flatbed, and then got into eventually was fortunate enough to get into overdimensional freight, and that was the goal for me. Again, go back to the previous video and it'll tell you the story behind all that. When you're in a relationship, being an over-the-road truck driver is extremely hard. It comes with its own set of challenges that you probably won't see in very many other businesses that you can get involved in terms of a job, because there is no real schedule behind it. And the more money you want to make, the longer you have to stay out, and the more involved you have to be with, regarding your loads. So for me, right off from the start, it wasn't uncommon to see me gone for 2 months at a time or longer. I was very comfortable with going out for 90 days and then coming home for, 5 or 6 days and then going back out again. It's always been sort of the way it goes. And we'd get together and we'd have amazing times. Those 5 or 6 days or however much time I took off, I would make sure that I packed in as many memories and as much experiences as possible in that short period of time. The rest of the time, I got to watch the lives of my wife and my child through social media and through videos that she would send me, or pictures, and through FaceTiming. We talked every day, several times a day. It wasn't uncommon that I would speak to her all day long, on and off. That was my way. That was her way of keeping me from feeling like I was neglecting the family, and that was my way of keeping up with everything that was going on with the family. And then in 2018, Christmas of 2018 came around. I took a couple days off, and my wife got pregnant again. And I think she was probably pretty nervous about trying to tell me. She called me in January to let me know, and it took me 25 seconds, and I was super excited. I love being a dad. I love being a husband. I love being able to be the person who is the provider and the protector for the family. It's just something I take great pride in. So when she told me that we were going to have now what would be my third son, I was extremely excited for it, and it gave me one more reason to work hard out here. So that's what I focused on. At that point, we had turned around, and I had built the company. I was actually an owner-operator at that point, and was doing very well. So I wasn't scared to have another child. And inevitably, we would turn around and upgrade and get a bigger home in a much more exclusive neighborhood. And, with that income came a much more lavish lifestyle. So my wife and my children never went without. They never had a position where they wanted or needed anything that I could not provide in a very reasonable amount of time. So I was extremely proud as a man to be able to do all of that. And anybody that knows me will attest to the fact that I took unbelievable pride in being a father. It is by far the most rewarding thing, the most rewarding experience I've had in my lifetime, 24 years of doing it, and I love every minute of it, and I have no regrets. I love being a husband to a person who is willing to reciprocate those feelings with me, is willing to show me admiration and appreciation, and someone who is willing to offer the same exclusivity in terms of a relationship as I'm willing to offer to them. So in terms of my second wife, she was everything that I could ever dreamed for. You often hear people say, oh, well, you got to find that perfect 10, or like, how are you going to find that perfect 10? For me, I didn't need that. All I needed was you give me someone that the rest of the world thought was average, and I'll make them my perfect 10. And that's exactly what I had. I adored that girl, 110%. 1st, 2019. My wife was entering her second trimester of pregnancy with our youngest son. At the same time, unbeknownst to me, she was also carrying on a relationship with another man. As expected, initially, she tried to deny everything. It was only after she discovered that I had not only confirmed this with this other man's wife, because he was married, I also confirmed it with him. He tried to downplay it as well. His wife not so much. And only after I was able to produce the proof to my wife did she come to me and say that she was talking to this man. It's now Wednesday, June the 29th, 2022. So you fast forward 3 years, 2 months later, almost 3 months later. I'm sure you're wondering where we're at. The stories that I'll share on these videos, as I've stated in the past, are stories from my life. I initially began sharing these stories on my Facebook page with about 500 friends with all kinds of mixed reviews. I have several very close friends that have been very supportive since day one. And keep in mind, I kept it hidden for a long time. I didn't actually bring this stuff to light until August of last year after I spoke to an attorney. See, during the course of time, what I've had to endure, aside from running this company that I created specifically to build wealth for my family, was someone that I completely adored and loved like no other person I've ever loved in my life. I was willing to make all the sacrifices necessary in order to make sure that they could live a life like they had never experienced before. In some kind of selfish way, it was my way to constantly be able to impress her. I don't know why I did that. But going through all these years, I caught her so many times speaking to this guy, and it would always be denial. And June of 2021, she began abusing pills. There was I came home at one point last year to find that she had abused my 6-year-old son. There was an open investigation by Child Protective Services against her. Shortly thereafter, in the month of October, I had the police out to my house 7 times in 3 weeks, all called by me. She was named as the defendant in 2 domestic violence, felony abuse cases. She began exercising her ability to play a little game that's called Parental Alienation. if you look, there's a picture on the introduction, and that introduction is actually done in chronological order, I believe. But there's a picture of her and the two boys, and there's a picture sitting under a palm tree. That was Memorial Day weekend. That was the Sunday before Memorial Day this year. That's the last time I've seen my sons. I saw them for one day. I've talked to them one time this month, in the month of June, for less than 5 minutes, and she hung up the phone. In December of last year, right around the 22nd of December, I came home to spend time with the kids, and I've always tried to remain amicable with her for the sake of the children while we work through whatever we were going to end up doing. December 22nd, as I was on my way home, she took the boys and disappeared. She ultimately ended up driving them to Atlanta, and I spent Christmas alone at the house. Valentine's Day this year was a bit of a disaster because she had tipped me off with some other information. I tried to, at one point, to try to make sense of this and figured I'd be able to make my way through this, and somehow, if we came together and worked at it, we'd be able to get around all of this stuff. Yeah, guys. I've gone through a lot of soul searching since August, or probably before that. I just kept quiet about it before August, but so I've spent years out here now doing a lot of soul searching, doing a lot of research on relationships and infidelity and how to come back from that, and went to a therapist who was an infidelity trauma specialist. Now been diagnosed with what's called complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And what that is if you look at PTSD, it's usually from a single event, and people who suffer from it will be triggered by specific sounds or noises or sights that will take them back to that incident. It can be controlled with medicine. When you have CPTSD, it can't be controlled with medicine anyway. It brings out a whole different level of anxiety, a whole different level of depression. It can be crippling because instead of being exposed to one thing, it's being exposed to multiple abuses and multiple traumas over a long period of time. So for each one of those, you're going to get a certain amount of trauma from it. So now, nearly everything related to the trauma, the abuse, or the relationship can trigger you. Whether it be that person's favorite color, a song that you guys shared. That's right, even the stuff from the happy moments can now trigger you because you've been exposed for so long. Understand, guys, it's been over 3 years for me now. I've kept very quiet about this, and well, I'll continue on with the CPTSD. A person's voice, seeing pictures, memories from the past. It can be anything. Like, I love going to the beach. Now when I see pictures of the ocean, I get extremely sad. Being in the truck. She's been in every truck I've had. There is no loss that I've ever experienced in my life, including the financial loss that I took back in 2015. There's no loss that I've taken that has been like this. The previous separation and ultimate divorce from my first wife was nowhere even comparable to what I have to go through now. The amount of deception and manipulation and the amount of incredible narcissism that I've had to deal with, where she will do things like, for years now, she has gaslighted me on things. Like, I will find like irrefutable proof about something, and she'll fight to her dying breath trying to tell me like it didn't occur and like you're going crazy. And there's been times that you feel like you are like, well, did I just make this up? Like, maybe I'm just thinking. Like, there's times where you get so desperate that you want to believe that you can just let all this go and be like, look, if we can just get back together, we can fix this. It's so hard to sit here and run a company and be out here on the road concentrating on business and having to worry about personal issues, wondering what's going on while you're gone. That's why I've said in previous videos that if you try to get into this line of business, you need to make sure that the person that you're with, or the people that you're with, have a clear understanding of what it is that you need to do to be successful in this business. I've seen so many guys crash and burn out here, not physically, but because of their personal lives, it has taken down a business they've built for themselves that can provide an unbelievable living for them and their families. It's extremely hard to deal with things like depression out here on the road, because a lot of the times you are just by yourself. I'm a very private person. I haven't been a very social person for the most of my life. And I've only realized that by doing these videos that I do, initially starting on Facebook and now starting this channel, it is my form of therapy. A lot of times when I make the videos, I'm going through something. Today's one of those days. I wear the sunglasses a lot because my eyes are usually red. I'm not ashamed to say it. I mean, as masculine as I appear to be, and as proud as I am to be a man, I'm also not afraid to express my feelings when I'm in pain. I've learned that it's perfectly fine for me to sit here and cry about things. I've tried very hard to make sure that I don't have an inappropriate reaction for things that are going on in my life. But I will tell you, when you go through this kind of thing, eventually what happens is you get a bit of a black heart from it all. A person can only take so much pain. And if you're put through enough of it and you're manipulated enough times, and you have to go through it over and over and over and over, eventually you realize there's no way to fix it. I've had professionals tell me there's no way to fix this relationship. You will die trying to fix this relationship. And that hurts a lot. As I told one of my friends today, because I have really great friends from my childhood even, who will still check on me. And I'm so grateful. But I told her, I said, you know, all I can do anymore is just get up and go to work. It's what I do. It's what I know. But the purpose for it is gone. And some would say, well, that's, you know, it's great because like now, you know, you don't have all the financial burdens that you had before. And yes, it's true. But I would take those financial burdens again if I could get back what I had, but I can't. The people who agree to be on board with you when you get into something like this, when you decide to take it to this kind of level where you're really going to make a career out of it and generate life-changing money. Understand, guys, I didn't come from money. I came from a working class family. So to turn around and knock down a 6-figure salary that doesn't begin with a 1 or a 2 is incredible to me. It's a miracle. But I worked hard for it, and I did it for the right reasons. I didn't do it for me. I don't drive a show truck. It's not covered in... It's got plenty of chrome on it, but it's all factory chrome. I don't have a million lights all over this truck. This truck is built for work because that's what I do. I'm not out here to show off. I'm out here to make money. And like what I told this girl today, I just go to work and sometimes I just feel like I lost the purpose. Not the purpose in life, because the purpose in life I've realized is to sit here and help people, and that's why I do this now. I realize after putting out nearly 20 videos on Facebook, I had such an incredible response by it that I realized that people need to hear the story and they need to learn from it. Not just truck drivers, but people who are in a relationship, whether you're just getting into a relationship, whether you're considering getting into a long-term relationship, whether you're considering getting married, whether you are married, whether you are divorced. That's what I promote, even after all of this. And understand, guys, I will go into detail about every single event, but it's important to sit here and lay the groundwork first. When you look at that introduction, it's important to understand that that introduction does tell a story. And as we go along with these stories, if you continue to follow my channel, every time you watch that 3-minute and 30-second introduction, it's going to come into place better and better for you, where you realize, wow, that thing really does tell the story of what happened to him. I don't know where it's going to go. I miss what I had. But the important thing is to be able to tell my story. I got a lot of criticism by a few people early on. They said, "Oh, what are you doing? Are you trying to sit there and out her?" And no, that's never been the intention at all. I have used the term a cautionary tale probably a half a dozen times or more in my videos, because that's what it is. I placed a lot of trust in a person that I loved immensely. I trusted her with my family. I trusted her with our home. I trusted her with all of our money. I trusted that girl with my life. And in the end, I have none of that anymore. What I have is exactly what you see around me now. And it's not a sad thing. It's not. I promised myself I wasn't going to do anything to interrupt the lives of my 2 youngest boys over choices that their mother made. She's going to have to deal with that. I don't feel guilty about that. I don't finance affairs. I will not enable somebody in my life to go out and be inappropriate in a relationship where they were supposed to be exclusive to me. And I don't think my expectations are any different than any other person or any other 2 people that are in a long-term committed relationship or a marriage. The only difference is that I'm taking an unconventional way of telling my story. I'm not writing a book. I'm not walking around and talking to my friends about this or sitting at a bar drinking and whining about my life. I'm using the one thing that I don't get along with very well, and that's technology. And I'm making videos to tell the story. Some people may see some parts of my life as entertaining, because they are. I've lived an incredible life. And I have many, many amazing memories of both my first wife and my second. I still hold them in very much high regard. but there's a reason why I can't be with them anymore. You have to respect yourself as a person first, because you're never going to be able to serve the people that you love the most if you can't be whole. And when someone turns around and tells you that you're no longer a priority in their life, you have to believe them. When people turn around and say things to try to get themselves out of a bind they put themselves into, you can pretty much put earplugs in and you can just watch what they do. Again, guys, I've not seen my kids since before Memorial Day, and she has this habit of just taking them and leaving, or taking them from me, so I'm unable to see them or speak with them. The last time I knew, they were up in Virginia. I have not heard from them in over 3 weeks. I do not know where they are at. That's where I'm at today. But it's not a sad story, guys. It's just the story of my life. Like I said, I don't know where it's going to go. But I will not be shamed in not telling my story. As you guys continue to come back, if you're willing to subscribe to my channel, I would be greatly appreciated. I want to tell you guys every single story that I have, the good times and the bad. I want you to take a moment and look at the diary of an American truck driver. That's what I do for a living. But it's not who I am. I'm an honest man. I work hard. I have 3 beautiful boys. I'm a father. I took great pride in being a husband. There is nobody that I know of that knows me who isn't able to agree that I'm a good man. I don't look at my story and say, oh, well, this is unfair. Life is unfair. It's not my job to control life. It's my job to adjust accordingly. So what I'm going to do going forward over the next several videos is I'm going to share those stories with you so you understand. I want people to be able to take from these stories and be able to recognize some of the warning signs. The warning signs I ignored. The warning signs that I was willing to blow past just in an effort to try to make things work, only to have things work out the way they did. So, if you want to come along with me with the journey, I keep trying to put these videos out as often as I can. I apologize, guys. I'm very, very busy, and this is I've realized that in order to produce YouTube videos to the caliber that I'm happy with, it takes a while. So I do this in all of my off time. But I promise you that I will continue to put these things out, so just stay tuned. Feel free to like, subscribe, and share these videos. Understand I'll be back here with another video very soon. I thank you guys very much for all of your time, taking your time away from your own personal life to, learn about mine. And I'll see you the next time I come through. Thanks.